Wow. So I was just sort of sitting there thinking, what an extraordinary friendly audience you are today. There were people before we started. There were people sort of taking photos, which is really nice. Just all standing together and doing selfies. That's really, really lovely. And then you give our speakers a really heavy-duty, hard time on the questions. It's most combative and impressive. So thank you so much. I don't think we've had so many people wanting to ask questions in the past 4 sessions we did before. So proper appreciate it, James. I hope you're ready. So tying down from AI down towards the rep experience. Life for reps is meant to be getting easier with digital enablement, as we sort of hinted there earlier. They're dealing with more platforms than ever, more obligations. Sales platforms like Viva, and IQVIA are becoming more and more sophisticated. So how can we support and enable the multi-channel rep for optimal sales outcomes, healthy commissions, and reliable strategy further up the chain? James is a good mate, founder and director of 28B. He's also co-founder of this Meetup. Don't hold the fact that he's a good mate of mine against him. It's going to be interesting stuff. James, all yours.
Thank you very much. Right. In the last few years, what our focus has become is on the CRM, CLM space. So customer relationship management and closed-loop marketing. And we specialise in certain platforms, and our job is to help brand teams and agencies understand and leverage those platforms. But when it comes down to it, it's really about better digital, better sales outcomes. And at the heart of those sales outcomes are reps. I'm an ex-rep. Many years ago, never got to use an iPad. I had carbon copy and filling in tiny little digits on a Dendrite or IMS document and sending off once a week, and then about a month later we get a report back and it didn't really tell us anything. So I am a massive fan of informed sales outcomes. So I'm really excited about AI coming in and how that is going to impact. I think we've got a lot of work to do on that, but I'm actually going to roll it right back to the basics today because, well, they're really basics, they're really quite exciting, but we've already got the tools to have suggestions, and we've got algorithms that can surface suggestions on existing platforms, so it's not necessarily going to look at AI until the end. So really what I'm going to look at is the multi-channel rep. So what does that mean? What's the industry perspective? Is it important? Is it a real term? Do we believe in it? And if we do, what can they achieve if they're properly enabled? And then I'm going to show you some actual examples, really simple examples that exist right now that do that, and hope to encourage more people to be doing that. I might actually be preaching to the converted, so I should check. First of all, anyone believe in the term multi-channel rep? Anyone come across it, seen it before? No? Yes, a little bit. Yeah? Okay. So it's not that commonly used. Okay, so we've got everything. We've moved on from sales representatives to business area managers or key account managers or business area executives or whatever it might be. But really what I'm talking about with this is, actually I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to go back to industry perspective because it's not just about whether I think multi-channel exists, it's about the industry. So I have stolen all this stuff from Across Health, pretty much, because actually when you start to Google multi-channel rep and you're looking for data, there isn't as much data as you'd like out. There's lots of disparate data. The data on what a multi-channel rep is and how well they're accepted in the industry, it's these guys, right? So I'm putting them right up there. It's Fonny Schenk on Twitter. He posts great content. They've done the Navigator, which is an ongoing tool for multi-channel, and then their multi-channel mapturometer 2018. So hit those links, really informative. Pretty much everything's from there, with a little bit from Chris Wade from Viva, who happened to use my title for this talk for his article, The Rise of the Multi-Channel Rep. He wrote it before my talk, but let's just not dwell on that. So, stats. Why do we want to consider digital with health? I mean, this is fairly obvious stuff here, but it's so nice to see the data. So by 2020, next year, 70% of HCPs, healthcare professionals, will have studied medicine where the internet was well established. I know that might sound odd to younger people in the audience, but things have moved so quickly, right? So the majority of doctors will be used to medicine. HCPs under 30 years old spend 40% more time online for professional reasons than those over 60 years old. And then where we're really going to get down to it is that 50-year-olds prefer face-to-face over remote. And then this is a really important thing, the mix face-to-face and remote with under 35. So that's just setting the scene. There's a definite segmentation within age. And if we have a look at it here, there's a great piece here. So come over this side, I think. So really looking, so no access. 21% of HCPs don't want to see anyone, don't want to engage with pharma in a one-to-one or virtual sense. Virtual only, 13%. mixed 34%, and rep only 32%. Caveat 2016, 2017. Okay, so if you feel that's new data or old data, right? But it's data. And then this is the important bit for me: is extending reach with our digital assets. There's 13% gap that we can do. There's 21% white space. There's still 21% we need to get to in some way, shape, or form. Maybe AI can help us with that through curated content. But really, we're talking about this space being really interesting for us, and how might we enable the rep to manage the different channels to get that whole segment calling. Right. What are Pharma doing about it? Well, 84% of Pharma are using e-detailing standard. That's not really a surprise for any of us here, I don't think. And again, caveat on this is 2018 data. Rep email adoption's risen to 49%. I'm just reading my own slides here. But essentially, things are starting to move, but then we start to get a little bit. It's only 6% of their specialists that they looked at were being served with a combined rep email remote. So we're talking the talk, are we walking the walk? And 1 out of 3 physicians still only sees reps rather than seeing the mix. Okay. So it may be because they asked this question, but it's one of the few things you actually see multi-channel reps in data, but it could be that's because they asked the question. But I thought that was really encouraging, because I'm a great believer in multi-channel reps, is that we're really second only to, what that was at the top there, delivering optimized customer journey across multiple touch points. Big data and artificial intelligence down here kind of fits with some, I don't know, but that was maybe a year older than your data. So what is the multi-channel rep? What do I mean by that? Well, I love this this diagram. This is multi-channel according to, and another shout out to Owen Health. If you're not familiar with Owen Health, they do great content. Multi-channel sort of consultancy space. What this represents is all kinds of, don't get into the details, but that's multi-channel, all kinds of things. I like it because it's kind of scary. It's kind of, there's so much to do. There's so many things in there. And that's not what I'm talking about. Not that level of multi-channel. I'm really talking in simple terms that multi-channel just means more than one channel. In fact, the multi-channel rep's been around since I was a rep, because we had congresses, we had advisory boards, we had lead pieces, we had paper TLAs, we had meetings, all those kind of things. There were different channels we could offer to the doctor, but it was all kind of logged in our head. So nowadays what we're looking at really is everything from face-to-face e-detailing to rep-triggered emails, which I am a massive fan of. They're like the lifeblood multi-channel rep, if you get it right. Then you've got your congress events. I'm not talking remote or virtual, I'm talking real ones. Through to local educational meetings. Then we start getting into self-led online learning, content dissemination. So what I'm talking about there is using email, etc., for potentially curated content, and then remote e-detailing, whether that's with the rep themselves or bringing a medic into the mix. So that's what I mean by multi-channel rep. And those tools all exist, all available to reps right now. But how are we helping them deliver them in the right way to the right customers? That's what I'm going at. So, if you've got a properly enabled multi-channel rep, what can we achieve? Okay, so you'll love this data. It's not really data, I just drew a squiggly line. But it's not even got any values on the axis, right? Okay, just bear with me, I'm sure. Okay, challenge me if you don't believe in this. But this is what it's like as a rep, right? You see the doctor's kind of interested, it drifts off, and don't forget we can only see them in a certain set time. Then you're just constantly, and occasionally you're getting up there, and you're bumping them up, you're moving them up, right? And if you're lucky, you get some local educational meeting. If you time that right, because you're in control of it, because you're the rep, you're inviting them, you can get them up that last hill bit, and you can get them by it. And then maybe you've got head office, not a massive fan of bulk email, so I might just refer to it as spam. But it's not related to that individual doctor at that particular time. It just comes in when head office send it out, right? It just comes in, it may not cover the things you've covered. It comes maybe at a good time or a bad time. It doesn't really matter. It probably doesn't even impact on the doctor at all. And I'll come into email open rates in a second. So, let's swap that up and say what happened if we had all those things and we got a much better squiggly line, which is, you're still going to get dips and all the rest of it, but we're going to end up at a higher build. That's because, don't say I've done this every single one, have I? Okay, let's try it. So, rep comes in, you send an email follow-up, right? I'm going to say the email rate. And that's content that you know they're interested in because you've just had a call with them. And you know they're interested in efficacy or dosing or whatever it is. So you send it, it looks good timing, and it keeps them up that slope. And then you send another email because you can. This time you get them to engage in some online learning, etc. So you're not the one at the bottom. Okay, there's something else that's picking them up. Because what's best as a rep is when you engage, well, personal, you're engaging with someone who's interested and already engaged a bit more, and you're helping that slope go up. So you're not always recovering, you're keeping it going up. And again, lots of different curated content, maybe that email for the local meeting, get that call in, and then maybe finish off with getting the medical liaison manager to do a remote meeting to push them up that final bit of slope, right? So that's what I think a properly enabled multi-channel rep can do. These are Viva stats on Viva approved email, rep triggered email. Massive open rates. Okay, so this is, Johnny can help me on this, right? But I'm pretty sure these are 35% of emails are opened by doctors. That's compared to 3% of corporate, right? So it's massively high. Why? Well, because you've just seen them, and you know them, and they might have asked you for specific content, and you're sending it. I always equate it to if I meet someone in a new business setting trying to promote 28B, and then the next day I send them an email, they're much more likely to open that email than if I drop a spam at them, 6 months after having seen them. Okay. You can get as high as 60%, so I'm assuming, John, on this one from it, that actually this is a specific customer, because down here is like actual customers having, so 600,000 emails sent, 30% customer interactions. Because you can measure all this, you can see your click and open rates, 3 times industry average. So those emails, so I'm a great fan of them, they can be really impactful. And then what about those remote detailing again? So forgive me, I'm using Viva stuff because it was there, and we work in it. But this for me is one of the killers, right? This is remote access to doctors. And I don't know why this is. Is it because they're more relaxed and they've set the time aside? But 14.5 minute average duration call with a doctor remotely, which is 2 to 8 times longer than a face-to-face. Is it because they set aside the time properly? I'm not sure what it is behind that.
Yeah, I think that's a big assumption. It's on their terms.
On their terms.
Often outside of, it's not fixed in between trades.
Yeah. So why the hell wouldn't we use those more? And then in systems like OCE, IQVIA solution and Viva, the stuff that you produce use on your e-detail on your iPad, you can flick over to remote. Okay, it's part of the same system. Why are we not doing this more? Why are we not enabling the rep to provide this service more? So what can we do with the impact of the multi-channel rep? So we talk about increased frequency and increased reach, but for me it's down to the adoption ladder. It's about moving customers from unaware to loyal evangelists if you're really lucky. By giving you all these tools, be able to measure it and be able to see it, is when you can tip people over to the next stage, what needs to go in, and this is where AIs can get really exciting because they can help you in those suggestions. This is a little bit from Agnicio, who's still playing this field a little bit, about tailored approaches. Let's take a high-value target where you want to invest in a rep visit, self-guided material, virtual visit, self-guided congress. So quite a high-value but high-investment individual, but with decent multi-channel in terms of the rep, they can take a decision to make that a much lighter piece through virtual visits, self-guided material, etc. So the rep's time can be focused on high value in terms of one-to-ones, and then using the multi-channel for lower value targets. So how do we actually do this? How do we pull it off? As I say, I'm going to show you actual practical examples that we're doing now. It's through channels like Viva, or platforms, or we're going to call them solutions like Viva and IQVIA. We already have that ability, but it's got to be through creative, well-implemented design, functional content, and Richard touched on this, actionable outputs. Whether it's AI, whether it's a marketing guy making a decision, don't care what it is. If you can't actually action that thing, if you can't see what it is you're supposed to do, then it never gets out of the bag and never gets done. So the reason I was rushing through all that is A, I was making up time, and B, I want to actually show you some live examples. Nice risk here on technology working. So what I'm going to show you is a piece in Viva which is using rep-triggered emails and reporting to get people to local meetings. Okay? Then I'm going to show you a bit more sophisticated piece which is about tagging content to look at message delivery to segmented customer groups. None of this is AI powered. It's really simple databases and algorithms. It's like no machine learning and stuff. It's all very simple stuff. And then I got permission from one of our clients to show you a really exciting piece that we've done for Alnylam over in the States. And this is a dashboard for surfacing which customer you should be seeing, where the most important place you could be on your territory, and then zeroing in on that place and thinking, what else can I do in that space? Okay, really exciting that you use technology. Again, it is in Viva. Right, so first off, Come.
He's some charming interlude music.
Okay.
Charming interlude.
You all know what to do when you get home. What was that? Okay. Right, so, risk bringing this over here. So I'm not stuck in this corner. Cool, right, what am I showing first? I am showing, right, rep trigger emails. So, the point of this is, by creating interesting content, I shouldn't be showing some of that, producing interesting content that allows the rep in the call with the doctor to quickly and easily utilise another function of it, which in this case is Viva-approved emails, to recruit them for a meeting, and then get back to their detail aid really quick, because the point you're there is to sell, not to invite to meetings. And then you're going to see a dashboard that helps the representatives see how many emails they've sent, how many they've accepted, and how the recruitment is going for those meetings, because those meetings are really expensive and usually very impactful. So these are just examples. So here we go. So in the middle, let's say that you've got some really nice inclusion in NICE guidelines, right? So you want to be talking about that, right? And usually what you might do is you get a local secondary care consultant to be the chairman, then you get your speaker in to talk about those NICE guidelines inclusions. So you're going to ask your doctor, would you like to come to one of the meetings? So we've got one in Richmond, Wandsworth and in Croydon. So I pull up Richmond. There it is. So can you make it? Okay, great. Would you like an invitation? Yes, you would. So by triggering it like this, I haven't selected the doctor. Let's just say I had. Okay, what's nice about this is it drives through in Viva, straight through. So it creates the template, populates it with a fragment relative to that meeting. As a rep, I swipe top right, sends, I close, and then back to the detailing. So I'm a great fan of that. So Viva-approved email is a very powerful tool. The interface could be a little clunky if you're going to send a lot of emails, and sometimes there's not a great uptake when you're just asking the rep to use that interface cold. If you integrate it into a detail aid like that, I personally believe no stats at this point to say that it would be a much easier way to use it. Because I just sent an email to a doctor who was already interested. The chance of them opening that and accepting it? Well, let's find out. If you go to another function in Viva, is everyone familiar with My Insights dashboards, real-time reporting in Viva, okay? Again, massive fan of real-time reporting because it helps you do your job. So in here, I'm going to do this. So here we go. So there's the 3 meetings we were talking about, and immediately tells me how long I've got to go, how many places I've filled, a bit ambitious, 60 if you think about it, in Wandsworth and Richmond, and that one's not even started yet. So let's have a look at details. So this is what I mean about actionable insights, okay? So here's the thing, how many have I sent, where's my target, and then why not pull up who's accepted, because you might just want to say no, say thanks very much for accepting the forward of the meeting. Open but not registered. So they've opened the email, they've seen it, but not registered, something's up. Was the date not right? Did they end up not liking the chairman? Maybe they forgot to finish. I'll follow that one up with an email. Invited but email unopened. All of these stats are there and available in standard reporting in Viva. That's just because they probably missed it. So I'll send that one again or even give them a call. And then not yet invited, well, obviously I could just send them an email. So by opening and doing that, it's a really simple solution, but it's actionable. It allows you, it enables multi-channel rep. And that's what I mean about, you can see how many different dashboards we've got up there. But for me, that's what a dashboard is about. I can open it, I know what I'm doing next, and I can do it. So we're using data, we're using a dashboard, and we're keeping it within the CLM for actual insights. Right, while I'm here, handy, here's my customer segmentation dashboard. So as an industry, we love to segment our customers. And quite often there's some consultancy involved at a high level who spend a huge amount of money segmenting it. Then you do workshops to localize it, and you create personas for those segments. Then you talk about how we're going to work differently with them. You might even create different content, or at least tag content so you can understand what's going on. You might invest all of that. And then for half an hour at a rep conference, after the big night before, when everyone's a bit hungover, you ask everyone to do it in about half an hour to an hour's flat. And then what happens when the reps go out the next day? Does anything actually genuinely happen? Right? Because maybe I know best, I'm a rep. So what about a dashboard that helps you understand it? So what we're looking at here is typical, this is generic, cautious, complacent and confident prescribers. And I prefer this visualization. So by tagging your content ahead of time, in simple things like dosing, guidelines, safety and adherence, we can see what you're presenting to what customer type. So this is all, but if I go to cautious. So what you're looking at here in grey is the target. So what you should be doing, this guy's girl is not far off it. Okay, we need to be talking more combination therapy with that segment group. Let's have a look at complacent. Again, actually, this is random data. If I go between, it's just going to do a nice to find data game. Where, okay, we're way off the ball here, so maybe we should be looking at that. Maybe we should be talking more safety when it comes to our confident prescribers. One would suggest probably not. And if I go back, this is what we talk about actual insights. Very next call, Don Clinton Ackerman, standard example in Viva at all times. Confident, so if you can put a call objective, suggested call objective, surface something, help someone know the very next person they're seeing, giving them a suggestion. This is really basic stuff, no AI powered, no machine learning, this is just some very simple data in a database suggesting with that combination this is what you should be doing. So what I'm saying is these are available now, they're not very difficult to do, they're simple to implement, they just maybe need a lot of thought and planning in the first place. Right, now I'm going to hot swap to this, because if I sync between sandboxes we could be here a little while. Those of you that use it. Right, so now this is a test sandbox, there's not a lot of data in here, but I really like this. I'll bring it up. Okay. So this is over in the States. What we've brought in here is a technology called Mapbox. We're in the same place we were before. This is the My Insights dashboard on Viva. And what you're looking at here is what we call the focus list. So I'm going to put that away by tapping that bell at the top. So there should be a lot more red dots up there. It should be like 13, 14. So what that is showing when I pull it up is the customers on my territory, in this case, have what they call a haystack lead, is finding a needle in a haystack, a service they paid for. New start forms is like a patient treatment program. New patient status changes. So basically, anyone who's high priority on my territory. Okay. And now that data isn't in Viva, it's having to come into Viva. So what this company out in Ireland has done is invested a huge amount of time and effort to bring their data in from their data lake. Well, first of all, they created a data lake, and now they're inputting in it from all kinds of different sources. So every time head office even run an ad board or a congress, whatever, it's all going in, it's all coming to this point so the rep has full visibility. So what this is designed to do is we can see here that we have a customer with this in, and if I if I tap on him, he'll go gold, which has been now into my focus list, and I can pull up the info on him. So what we're trying to do here is to surface, and none of this data is particularly insightful because it's not at that level yet, that's where we're going next, but basically the idea is you can look at this and assess, is this someone I want to see? So we've got in here survey results, we've got pre-visit notes from the previous one. Now these are all available in different places on Viva. What we're trying to do is bring it together and surface the most interesting, their institutions, etc. And then we can log information from here. And I can go back to the map. And the idea being that you can pull up all different information. So what I want to show here is, again, there's maps exist, all kinds. It's about bringing it to the surface, allowing them to filter out whatever they might want to do to create their call on that day. And the next stage for this, we're hoping, is to start making the AI suggestions on top of this, because this is all about bringing the information to the rep so they make those decisions. But of course, as we talked about, there's so much to try and collate and bring together that that's not always possible. So there's 3 examples that are live now and easy to do within the existing system, in this case, Viva. Right. So AI, because this is kind of an AI meeting. So this is what I showed earlier, just how complex this is. And data is hidden in there somewhere. There is no feasible way to use some of the things I've shown you and expect the rep to digest all of that. So that's where AI is going to play a role. So for me, it's about usable insights, suggestions, targeting, and this content personalization. We're all familiar with the idea that when we go online, that content is being personalized for us. Every time we Google search, everyone in this room will get a different result on their Google search because it's been personalized with a for you with the AI. You've heard today, IQVIA have their AI layer on their optimized customer engagement, which I keep thinking is pronounced ADA. ADA. Okay. Viva have Andy. And this is live. We have examples. And you can see a nice dashboard here around how each step has been made and adopted. And what's nice is here is an adoption ladder. So you can actually see the traffic in that, who's moving up and who's moving down. And we also have Eric here from Okra. So Okra have their solutions here, and you can see again reasons why, suggestions, best factor. It's really exciting to think that there's something helping reps have better sales outcome and surfacing and bringing stuff up. But I think for me, and as I'm glad to say, it's exactly what Richard talked about, operationalising it. For me, right down, and that's fine on a company-wide, but it comes down to me is, we know that, 66% of doctors still want to see a rep. Still critical. So it's not just about operationalising it to the company level, but making it usable, I'm not going to say that again, for the reps. So, in my humble opinion, AI is only going to be as good, and this is in a customer engagement setting, as its UI and UX. So it's relevant, easily understood, actionable, and rewarding. So you talked, Richard, about the rep seeing the doctor, seeing the doctor, seeing the doctor, based upon the targeting example. And if the market share is not going up and all the rest of it, then that's teaching the algorithm. But I think it also is about showing the representative who's using this that the reward is there, and actually proving that. Not talking necessarily about gamification, although that could play in it, but actually, this shit is working. And an example on a really simple, so in terms of motivating reps, first time I think I ever heard of Viva was at a gamification conference. Why it was a gamification conference, but BMS Portugal stood up, and they just adopted Viva, and they were talking about the fact that the North Portugal reps outsold the South Portugal reps on a regular basis. It had always been a split, and it always will be a split. Once they adopted a proper system that had CRM and CLM, they could start to look at the data. It came down to one simple thing. The North talk efficacy first, the South talk safety first. Now, as a rep, talking safety is the easiest thing. Easy to talk safety, sometimes hard to go in there and talk efficacy. But you have to talk efficacy before you say it's safe. So what they do, they showed it to the reps and basically said, this is why you keep getting beaten. Simple as that. So over the next 18 months, they showed the data as that gap closed and closed and closed, and you can see the relationship between safety going second, efficacy going first, and that gap closing. So it's about sharing back the data and appealing to our heartstrings, no, our pockets, because it was about bonuses and keeping up with the North. So, what I envision, and I'm looking for people to engage with us on this, because we're not designers. Right? The way I see it is you could have someone in the middle here. Now, where I don't get really exciting for me, we talked about this, is about what content might be suggested. But let's just say that across the top here is the adoption ladder, where they're at. Okay? I'm not convinced AI is going to say where you're on the adoption ladder. I think the rep's going to say where they believe the doctor's on the adoption ladder. So let's just say we tap that and say that's where we believe Dr. Tony Stark is at the moment. But based upon your previous engagements, based upon local health data, based upon what they're consuming online, all of that rich data that we're talking about, that we're hopefully learning from the algorithms, it can suggest these are the different actions that you need to do to move Dr. Tony Stark onto this one. Now, some of these will be delivered maybe automatically, but a lot of them will be created and delivered by the representative. And as you do, some of them will be within systems, so this will be real-time data, and you start to fill that up. That would be the perfect interface for me as a rep. I pull that up, what am I supposed to be doing, what am I doing, how do I move him on? Add into that the rich targeting, is Dr. Tony Stark the person I should be doing, investing his time in? It can become a really powerful tool. So call to action for a mixed audience. I refer to this thing a lot, functional content. We need to create content that works hard across the multi-channel mix. Okay, one piece of content for one channel is no longer acceptable. It needs to work across them all. Plan your metrics and evaluation, not just because that's how we currently use it and we should all be doing that, but it also will feed into AI and machine learning. And I think that those customers that have good data are going to get a running start. Those that have poor data are going to spend years trying to get it sorted out. Focus on UX that enables multi-channel rep for better sales outcomes. That's kind of the whole thing. I kind of refer to as design with machine learning in mind. And then one of you partner with us to try and create that cool interface. That'd be good. That's pretty much my call to action, because we can do some of it, but we need kind of a pharma pilot and maybe a creative agency in there as well. So there you go. So I've rattled through that through a short time. That's me. Any questions?
You're not going to ask a tough question. You said 66% of sure that's true.
I just shared someone else's data.
66% of them will still see reps.
Not want to. You mean still see versus want to. I'm going to go back.
So expanding on that, and if we say that they want to see a rep because they want to maybe 3 questions about a drug or a medication or a patient that they want an answer to, are we going to get to the point where if we can understand what those questions are that are in their head, we'll be able to find more efficient ways of delivering that answer to them that don't necessarily use the reps.
Yes, but can I quote my father on this? Okay. So when I yeah, he's dead, so he can't back this up. When I joined the dark side, he's a doctor, GP, or was, and I became a rep because I needed money in a car. And I thought he'd be, oh my God, he joined the dark side and all the rest of it. He actually said he really values his time with representatives.
Yes.
So what he would do is he would invite the 2 or 3 from competitors, let's say Prozac, Soroxat and Lustral, right? Classic 3 when they were out there at his time. And he'd get them within a certain time frame, invite them in, because he didn't have time to digest clinical trials. It's not like they know what the questions are. So he saw them as a valuable resource to help him digest research and clinical trials, and then he'd throw in a massive pinch of salt and he'd mix up the 3 and come out with his own opinion. So I think you're right. Can we predict what questions they know? But do they even know what questions it is they know? So I think it is an increasing challenge, but I'm still a massive believer in the rep doctor interface, and will continue to be. And I'll fight you outside if you believe differently.
Why do you believe that the lack of adoption would be more actively represented by
I guess a lack of knowledge around what sort of data could go in there and the value of that data. I think maybe in time. A lot of it's subjective. And we can't see what's coming out of surgery. We can see what the pharmacy is prescribing, and all the rest of it. I think it's too subjective at the moment. But I'd love to see alternatives to that, because it would be much better if we had an objective view on where they were. But again, I just think it comes down to knowing your doctors, Can we still drop into the pharmacists and ask what they're getting out there? But it's that bringing that stuff together. Maybe AI can do that, and maybe that's what I'm missing because I'm not an expert in that field. But it always felt to me as a rep that you kind of had a bit of a handle on it, but it was difficult to explain. It's not like a checklist that you can say, therefore I believe he's here, or she's there.
Just add in, just on that point, an example of where we kind of see the balance between it. Because generally things are about balance, and certainly when you're looking at the adoption of the technologies and trying to get proof of this is important. So you can have an example whereby you have AI or machine learning, which is effectively able to look at the data and tell the rep what the rep doesn't know, with a plethora of information that's sitting behind the CRM, data, prescribing, PMR, social, whatever it might be, but providing the rep with suggestions or options. Here's the next 3 that we think, based on this criteria, and you apply the human lens to it, and you figure out which is the right person to go and see next. Because then you can kind of get that balance between the two, whereby you can use the power of data and analytics to come up with scenarios, but then the representative or the person in the field or whoever it is that actually knows the reality can figure out which is the right one. There's an example of, a little while ago, a colleague had been talking to somebody who had just been out to see a doctor, and knowing how difficult it is to kind of get time, the doctor said, "Oh, how long was your call for?" He said, 3 hours. And he's like, "How on earth can you have a call for 3 hours?" And long story short, the only time the doctor could see him was when he was fitting stents in the lab. It was a 3-hour session. Basically, he went in and sat in for 3 hours. Now, AI would never tell you that that was possible, but because the rep knew the dynamics, they could go in and get 3 hours worth of time. So I think it's a bit of that.
But I think in suggestions, we worked on a project which one of the things we get over enamoured of CRM, CLM technology. So one of the things we had is let me show you. No, I won't. Basically, it was treatment priorities, and you could shuffle them all about, and you'd ask the doctor, when you're prescribing, what are you considering, and then that would shuffle the slides in priority order. So efficacy, safety, compliance, all that kind of stuff. Rep didn't know what bloody slide's coming next, right? Yeah. It seemed like a great solution because it gave us analytics. And they go, well, I'm as surprised as the doctor what's coming next. It kind of felt, right? So a great alternative to that, and we looked at it with some of the more complex secondary care detail aids, is to colour code the suggested route, so that you've got to create a slight glow around where you're going next in the navigation, which can be ignored, and you're not interrupting the flow, but you're skipping certain slides. And that's the idea that you're enhancing rather than like forcing or replacing, because I still think there's huge amounts of judgment in them, and I'm really excited about AI, but I think the whole judgment subjectivity piece is a long way off.
In terms of reps, how will you manage the various tech skill levels and the various age groups, because I see that being quite a bit of a challenge.
Yes, it is, for sure. So that Al Nilam case that I showed you is a prime example. So it's currently in user acceptance testing phase, and some people are really struggling with pinch and zoom on the map, and they're getting themselves confused on that and all the rest of it, and they're already saying it's no good. And when we were digging down, it's just based on because the map's online, just takes a little bit of time to load and all the rest of it. It's training. It's not making it the only route. I don't know the answer to that on the other side. Classic stakeholder management is the other thing. And we talked about this just earlier. We're in too many bloody meetings about detail aids, and there's no rep in the meeting. We've got global, and they're in there and they're talking, they're really excited. And you've got no offence to McCann's here. You've got some agents like McCann, someone who's never been in the field, doesn't understand what rep is, but they've got a really pretty picture, all the rest of it. They're bang on, come with a great solution. It goes down the road, and then it's just like dropped at the reps from a great height at the sales conference. And occasionally you'll get the best rep coming in because he's allowed into head office, and he comes in and tells the things that everyone wants to hear because he's the best rep and he wants a job in marketing. So what we've just been talking about before is I want to do an ad board of reps, getting a curry in London, and just talking what's it like to use these things. I think there's enough of that. So getting people engaged, so extending that point, is basically like any project, anything. If you get people engaged early and they are contributing, or maybe feel like they're contributing, but hope they are, then they feel a part of it and along for the ride. And actually, when they come to the end product, they're the champion for it. Too often, just it's landed on from a great height.
I think it really comes down to the value. So with the reps and the details, the value is important for the reps as well. So when you design UX and UI, you have to think about how do we bring the highest value to the healthcare professional?
Yep.
Who's going to get the message? But how do we bring the best value to the doctor? So it's this sorting things out and you don't know what the next line is.
Yeah.
That's rotten. That doesn't work.
So it's a great example. We built 260-page detail aid, 260-page detail aid for a client. So I always say this, but my Prozac detail aid, when I was 5 pages, four patient pictures, 5 key messages at a price. That was it. I used to leave it open on page 3, which is my favourite picture, and then flip to the back, and that was my whole detail aid, right? So that 260-page detail aid never got out of the bag. Why? Because it was daunting. You couldn't get to the end of it, know what they were doing with it. The example of, I am not a massive fan of augmented reality in terms of medical communications and medical education. I think the resolution on it's a bit poor. I think it's a bit of a gimmick, and I've been kind of against it for a while. And then we got to work on a project with, is Colin still here, with GSK on AR, and the reason being, it got the reps excited, and that's actually a good enough business case. If you're going to get that tool out the bag, and you can get the doctor you've seen 4 times in the last 18 months, or 3 times in a year, and actually they're excited by it as well, that is a good enough business case. I had to change my tune on AR and said it has some value, and sometimes a gimmick or a wow, it is there to help them get out of the bag. But ultimately, regardless of AR, it's a decent user experience for the rep and then for the customer engagement.
Chaps, we're a wee bit low on time. Any more questions for James? Last chance. 3, 2, 1. Go. There we go. James Harper, 28B. Listen, we are just about out of time. We're going to get thrown out of here at 9 o'clock, but please do the whole networking, having a drink type thing. We've got about sort of 25 minutes or so. I didn't say at the outset, if this is your first time, we sort of do this every sort of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. What it actually turns out to be is when we feel we've curated something that's halfway decent and hangs together, then we'll do it, and until then we won't. So it's not sort of specifically every month or not. But keep an eye on Meetup. You know where we are now. We love being here at WeWork as well. So the dates aren't always perfect, but there will obviously be another one. And tell other people if tell us if you haven't enjoyed it. Tell other people if you have, because we'd like to get more people through the door. And that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Would you please put your hands together for James and Richard?